Okay, so in lesson 6, we looked at finding the volume of prisms. We looked at rectangular prisms and we also looked at triangular prisms, and we learned that the formula for finding the volume of any prism really is volume equals capital B times H. And we learned that it was very important to remember that that capital B represents the area of the base, so that when you're solving volume problems, when you see that capital B, what you're really doing is plugging in the formula for the area of whatever the base shape is. Well, that will lead us directly into finding the volume of a pyramid. Now, if you think back to prisms, so prisms have two congruent parallel bases that are then connected to each other from vertex to vertex. Pyramids are going to just have one base, and then they're going to rise to a point that we call an apex. So prisms will have two bases, and pyramids will just have one. They're still three-dimensional shapes, but they just have one base. If you think back to rectangular, or to prisms, rectangular, triangular, wouldn't matter. If you think back to prisms, they all had rectangular faces. I mean, even a triangular prism, it has triangular bases, but all of its faces were rectangles. Well, on pyramids, you're going to have triangular faces because they're all rising to a point. They're not rising to another base, they're rising up to a point. So all of your faces will be triangles. So we are going to look at an example in class where you see why this works. When we find the volume of a pyramid, we'll use a very similar formula that we did for prisms, except that we're going to have this additional component to the formula where we say that the volume of a pyramid is 1/3 times the area of the base times the height. So really what we're saying here is that the volume of a pyramid is 1/3 what it would be if you had that exact same base but had it form a prism instead of rising to a point and creating a pyramid. Okay, so it's going to be the same formula. Okay, we still have area of the base times the height of the pyramid, but then we take 1/3 of that. Now, when you take that third, really doesn't matter. You can find the area of the base and take 1/3 of that and multiply that by the height. You could take 1/3 of the height and multiply that times the area of the base, or you can go ahead and do area of the base times the height and then take 1/3 of that. And remember that taking 1/3 of something just means dividing it by 3. But we still have this that holds true in our formula. Capital B means area of the base. So if we're looking at this pyramid, if a rectangular pyramid, okay, so here's our base right here. So our base is a rectangle, so to find the area of that rectangle, we'll do length times width, or base times height. And then we have a pyramid height that's written in right here. Now, just like on a triangle where the height has to form a right angle with the base, in our pyramids, we're talking about a distance from that point at the top, that apex, down to the base that forms a right angle. So when you see that little square mark, that's just indicating to you that is, in fact, a right angle, so that is the height. So when we find the volume of this one, I mean, everything I'm writing now is already written there for you. I'm just writing it as I say it. So the formula for the volume of a pyramid is 1/3 the area of the base times the height of the pyramid. Our base is a rectangle, and it's a 4 3/10 by 3 2/10 rectangle. And then we have a height, a prism, or a pyramid height of 11. So we'll do 4 3/10 times 3 2/10. And we get 13.76. So we have 1/3 times 13.76 times 11. And again, it doesn't really matter in what order I do this. I'm going to find 1/3 of 13.76. Oops. Sorry about that. Go in 4 times. Okay, so I could round to the nearest tenths place. Oh, we're not done though yet. Okay, so 3 into And that 6 will just keep on, it'll keep on repeating. And then we have to multiply that times 11. Let's see where I have room. I'm going to round that, since that 6 would keep repeating, I'm going to go ahead and just round that to 0.587. So we get 50.5, okay, because that 5, this 5 right here would round that 4 up. So we get that the volume is about 50 and a half cubic meters. So very similar to what we did with the prism, very similar. It's just that you have to take a third of it because a pyramid is going to be a third of whatever the prism would be. So let's look at this one. Here's our base. So we have this rectangular base. And remember that volume is equal to 1/3 the area of the base times the height. And you can see our height is drawn in here. There's the mark to show the right angle. So our base is a rectangle. So to find the area of a rectangle, you do base times height. In this case, that'll be 8 times 7, which is 56. And that would be square centimeters. And then our pyramid height is 6. So when we plug all that in, we get 1/3 of 56 times 6. Now again, since order doesn't matter at this point, I can take a third of 6 in my head. A third of 6, or 6 divided by 3 is just 2. So I'll have 2 times 56, so 112. And that's going to be cubic centimeters. Okay, next one. Okay, this one's just kind of drawn at a funny angle, but it's still the same thing. So here's our rectangular base down here. So it's a 7 by 2.3 rectangle. And then you can see the height right here of 10. So I've got a rectangle, so base times height. So 7 times 2 3/10. So 16.1 square inches. I've got a height of 10. And to find the volume, that's going to be 1/3 area of the base times the height. So 1/3 of 16.1 times 10. I'm going to go ahead and do 16.1 times 10. That's going to be 161. So I end up with 1/3 of 161. So now I'll do 161 divided by 3 because that's how we find a third of something. And it's going to repeat. So that 6 would round that 6 to a 7. So we would say that our volume is about 53 7/10 cubic inches. I forgot to label that one inches. So again, find the area of the base. Multiply that times the height, and then divide by 3. Okay, you can cross that one out. That one shouldn't be there. Okay, same thing. Look at this one. We have a rectangular base. And there's our height that's drawn in for us. So to find the area of our base, it's a rectangle, so we'll do base times height, 11 8/10 times 11 8/10. So actually our base is a square, but as far as calculating goes, that's still the same. Okay, if you do 11 8/10 times 11 8/10, you get 139 2400ths. And that's going to be square meters. That's the area of your base. And then we have a height, a pyramid height of 15. And that'll be meters. So then to find volume, that's equal to 1/3 times the area of the base times the height. So a third of 139.24 times 15. Now again, once you get to this point, order doesn't matter. I can do a third of 15 in my head because 15 divided by 3 is 5. So I can say this is the same as 5 times 139.24. And we get 696.2. And that will be cubic meters. Okay, this next one presents a little different situation. So our base is right here. That triangle. So this time our base is in a rectangle, and then there's our height forming a right angle with the base. So this time our base is a triangle. So the formula is different. The formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So in this case, that's going to be, sorry about that, that's going to be 1/2 times 2 times 10. So half of 2 is 1, 1 times 10 is 10. So the area of the base is going to be 10 square kilometers. Then we have that height in there that is 9 6/10. So then to find the volume is equal to 1/3 times the area of the base times the height. So 1/3 of 10 times 9.6. Well, I know that 10 times 9.6 is 96. So 1/3 of 96. So 96 divided by 3 is 32. So it's going to be 32 cubic kilometers. I forgot to label this kilometers again. Okay, so again, that one was a little bit different just because we had to use the formula for the area of a triangle right here, simply because our base shape was a triangle and not a rectangle. So just pay very close attention to that base shape. Find its area, multiply it times the height, and then divide by 3. And that's it for volume of a pyramid. So go ahead and circle the icon that tells how you're feeling about your own understanding of volume of pyramids, and have a great day.